Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here. Today we're going to be talking about the recent ban and the new BL Knight that we have for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Mamoswine has been banned in Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you guys didn't know, the past 2 weeks, they were running a suspect test for Mamoswine. Basically, you laddered up, you got, Rex for requirements for it, which was ridiculous, by the way, for Mamoswine completely. And I do hope, and I've actually voiced my opinion multiple times, I know others have as well, to the council, that the amount of games was just tough, because once you get to the top, like me personally, I became number 16 on the ladder, and I still did not have requirements met for Mamoswine. But yeah, hopefully that's something that gets changed, or they do something like for those that are actually winning games more and more, that maybe like the requirement is lower, or I don't know what they could do. Y'all can let me know your thoughts on that. Please let me know your thoughts on Mamoswine in general being banned, and let's get right into it. So it was banned. I actually voted do not ban on Mamoswine myself. But because after the recent Pokemon home drops, I kind of felt that it was very hard. Like before Pokemon, well, not Pokemon Home, but before the recent tier drops, right? So basically, April 1st, we got Darmanitan in the U tier, we got Torkoal, we got Sylveon, right? And Darmanitan is a big one because it kind of makes Sun unbearable in my opinion. I don't know if you guys saw the Choice Band Darmanitan Sun live that I did with Darmanitan, Sun, Venusaur, and Darm in general just being so strong in that game, right? Like it was just so good every single game, and I just felt that it was like I understand that the reasoning behind banning Mamoswine, or behind Mamoswine even being suspect tested, is because it makes the builder harder, which I also personally, even during my like 40 something games of UU, I also didn't see as much. Granted, I was forced to use Golisopod, to use Cobalion, but they're also good Pokemon that deal with other Pokemon in the meta game. So I never felt, even when I used Mamoswine and when I fought Mamoswine, I never felt that my Mamoswine was too good. And I know you guys saw a lot of the games as well. And I never felt that the Mamoswine fighting me was good, which is why I didn't feel voting do not ban made a lot of sense, especially because the meta game just got shifted again, right? It was kind of like how both Kyurem Black and Melmetal got banned, but we're recently suspect testing Melmetal again, just to see, because maybe it was broken because it was alongside Kyurem Black, or I don't know, or like maybe the DP one of where Latias and Salamence both got banned at the same time, but Salamence ended up being the broken one. Years later, this DP is Gen 4 for those that don't know. Years later, we retest Latias, and it's fine in Gen 4. It's not even, I wouldn't even say it's over-centralizing, because all of its answers are all super common Pokemon that are used on teams regardless, and there's still Pursuit. Speaking of Pursuit, totally different thing real quick, but my boy Titar almost hit UU, and as much as I want to see the king of BL Knights, basically he would be the king of BL Knights, use it in the series that me and Blender are doing, I don't want to see the only Pokemon that has been OU since Gen 2. Gengar used to be the only Pokemon that has been OU, but then it dropped down to UU. Starmie was the same thing, but it dropped down to UU and X and Y, and now it doesn't exist. I don't want to see the only Pokemon that has been consistently OU drop down. And don't say Excadrill, because Excadrill rose up to Uber for a little bit as well. And obviously, we have the Pokemon from this generation. But yeah, so Mamoswine. I couldn't see myself putting ban because of like what's been going on in the tier and what we got. We did get Darmanitan, and honestly, I feel like Pokemon like Haxorus, for instance, gets so much better. And I want to read Hog's post here, because I agree a lot with what he has to say. And I also I want to see your guys' thoughts on current UU as well, because I actually do like the current UU tier, and I liked it prior. I liked it with Mamoswine as well, and I liked it prior to the drops too. Not to say that I'm not excited about the drops. Like I got hella excited to click Flare Blitz with Darm, man. But anyway, so I'm gonna read Hog's post, and I want you guys to tell me your thoughts. I'll leave them all down below. What you think about the Mamoswine ban? Do you think it deserved to be banned or not? The super majority did vote ban, as posted by TDK here. So it was actually very, very close too. Like it was closer than, like it was apparently the closest suspect test that you had, which it doesn't even look that close here, but still. Anyway, general thoughts despite voting. Hog is also one of the UU tier leaders next to TDK. Hog is an older leader. General thoughts despite voting, do not ban. No Mamo will certainly make building a lot easier. Post drops, I think Mamoswine definitely waned as a threat for me, and I felt exactly the same. Right now, I think the unhealthiest thing I've seen based on the ladder is Sun. Pre-Darm, Sun teams could still farm wins, but just weren't as reliable. With Darm, though, there's a whole new beast. I actually haven't had much of an issue with Darm on its own. Scarf Darm isn't that hard to check outside of Sun. And while base 95 is a good speed tier, between Rocks and Flare Blitz chip, it's pretty easy to get CB Darm into revenge kill range, which I think is fair as well. I think one of the biggest things about CB Darm is that you can bluff Scarf Darm too, and you guys saw me do that in the live as well. Heavy Duty Boots Darmanitan has been pretty cool, but it lacks insane utility offered by Incineroar. All in all, it's a decent offensive drop, but I haven't found it overwhelming until you add Sun to the mix. Under Sun, all 3 sets suddenly get dialed up to 11, especially with Venusaur to clean up once Darm breaks some holes, and I agree completely with that. Venusaur had already dropped to UU before, but it wasn't anything crazy. Yes, you could do something with Sun, but with Gardevoir running around, Gardevoir actually still running around right now, and Gardevoir even better because Sun is good, because you just trace the chlorophyll from Venusaur and you have your Choice Scarf, so you're even faster than that. But yeah, Sun just got so good with Darm because it makes everyone a nuke, right? It gives Choice Scarf the Choice Band damage. It gives Choice Band the Galarian damage. I don't know, like that's not a fair thing. But Gigalith remains a really good Sun answer, but running Gigalith is just asking for your team to get snacked on by the other great drop. I don't know why I couldn't finish that sentence. Snacked on by the other great drop, Sylveon, which is an absolute godsend to the tier, but Specs is a real threat. Even with Timid, its Hyper Voice hits even harder than Gardevoir's Moonblast, but unlike Gardevoir, it has an excellent defensive typing and good enough bulk to take advantage of it. A lot more passive threats, such as the aforementioned Gigalith, and even some more offensive staples like Noivern. Noivern is definitely a staple in the tier. Mamoswine was so good because it could revenge kill Noivern no matter what, right? With Arrow Shard, even with Heavy Duty Boots, Noivern could be at 100%, still die to Light for Mamo. Obviously, that's why you also saw things like Heavy Duty Boots Golisopod and Shukaberry Cobalion, which I used, Golisopod, and Shukaberry Cobalion, which I used a lot during my entire run. I actually think Cobalion is like one of the top 3 Pokemon on the tier, in my personal opinion. But, well, before the Darmanitan and everything came down. Still think it's really good though, regardless. But, that's why you saw a lot of that, right? And I mean, even then, like, they weren't the best answers. Like, Cobalion couldn't take damage. It could only come into revenge kill. Golisopod, if it got knocked off, then Rocks were there. Stone Edge was also an option. You saw, like, Cobalion run Stone Edge for Golisopod, so they paired really well with Mammal too, but still wasn't really seen as broken. But, yeah, and even some more staples. Sure, it's slower, but the only relevant threats you actively miss out on between 284 and 240 ranges are Toxtricity and Chandelure, the latter of which is only a speed tie anyhow. You can even run bulkier sets with Modest, which completely demolish fatter teams, doing things like having 100% or 2-hit KO on Max, Incineroar. 100% chance to 2-hit KO Max, Incineroar. Crazy. And now, if you had to say any single thing was helping the current metagame, I'd probably say Darm, especially because of how much it makes Sun teams over the top. After that, I think we probably need to keep an eye on Sylveon and Hackers, though I could see other threats like Run and Wash potentially getting out of hand as well. And that's a big thing, too. Like, I really didn't feel like... I felt like UU had a lot. I understand that you're forced to run a Shukaberry, for example. You're forced to run a Shukaberry on your Cobalion because of Mamoswine, but you also run the Shukaberry to live Earthquakes from Moldbreaker Haxorus, which definitely is running Earthquake because it allows it to hit Galarian Weezing, right? So that Shukaberry should be still an item. That's like the #1 item Cobalion will use regardless, in my opinion, unless they're running like Specs or Calm Mind variants, which I think are still good too. I think both are good. I've even seen like minus speed variants too, because Cobalion can't knock out Cobalion from max HP with close combat. Not max HP, but from full HP with close combat. So if you lose a speed tie, you live the hit, and then you knock them out with your close combat return. But I don't feel like that was like, it's not, oh my god, I have to use Shukaberry Cobalion because Mamoswine is such a threat. No, you're using Shukaberry Cobalion because not only does it help you check Mamoswine, it also helps you check Haxorus and a few others in the tier, right? Rhyperior as well. You can check, you can set up on it if you needed to. Just some examples, right? Oh, Golisopod, man, I'm using this thing because Mamoswine in tier, sure, but it's also a viable spiker. It has a good move pull. First impression is very, very good, especially when coupled with liquidation. In the tier, it naturally resists things like Cobalion. Cobalion also starting to hit, to use things like Stone Edge in order to deal with that. So, like, I personally didn't feel like Mamoswine was also crazy, and I also like the fact that Mamoswine checked things like Toxtricity, which I do feel like can get out of hand, especially if they do end up banning Darm, because if they ban Darm, that makes Sun worse. And not that Sun has any switches for Boom Burst anyway, right? Unless you're running Rhyperior, which you should be running on most of your Suns, I feel. I feel like Sun should definitely be some combination of Torkoal, Darmanitan, Venusaur, right? Those are givens. You want your anti-Sun, which is why I ran Gardevoir on the Sun team we had with Choice Scarf. And then from there, you kind of go, okay, how do I deal with Noivern? How do I deal with Toxtricity? And of course, you have your Rock type and Rhyperior. You can also run Gigalith on Sun, which isn't the best. And then from there, you also go, okay, what's my other check to something like Cobalion or Mamoswine as well. So I mean, even versus Sun, I guess Mamo was good. But yeah, I'm very iffy, which is why I couldn't bring myself, just based on personal experiences, right? I'm not just gonna vote something because, oh man, other people are saying it's hard to build, just because I'm not building as much in UU as it is, which is the truth. Which is the truth, right? Most of the teams I used were from other people, and then I did a few edits here and there just based on my experience while playing. But I didn't personally feel that Mamoswine was too much of a threat, especially with the drops, right? We got Rotom Wash, right? One of the best answers. And if you run Freeze Dry in your Mamoswine, you miss out on Knockoff, right? For Bronzong. So Bronzong because of chunk. Or, like, while Freeze Dry does do a good chunk to Galizapod, Knockoff is just a huge thing. Getting rid of Leftovers, getting rid of Black Sludge, getting rid of Heavy Duty Boots, especially because UU is basically Heavy Duty Boots the tier, right? In my opinion, it is, right? You have Incineroar, you have Noivern, Galizapod, and then there's more. There's just a lot more mons that actually run it. It is literally Heavy Duty Boots the tier. So I think that's it's still a big thing, and obviously Rotom was still a good answer. Galarian Weezing can deal with it too, but obviously had to worry about being flinched, and there were some Mamoswine that did run Heavy Slam, which gave them the guaranteed 2-hit KO on Weezing, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'm thinking that UU going forward is going to be crazy, because even if they do end up, let's say they end up banning... another thing about Galizapod that was good was that it checked Haxorus, which was a huge threat in the tier. Huge threat. And Gardevoir, of course. It'd be choice Scarf or choice specs. But I think if going forward, UU is definitely going to be we're going to see some bans and some tests, I feel, because I think for one mon that really, really, really benefits from this being gone, and also Sun still being there too, Haxorus. Haxorus is just so good. Now, Sylveon means that your Haxorus, when it's choice band, has to really worry about like what it's running, right? Previously, the fairy type in the tier, Gardevoir, main fairy type in the tier, did not take first impression, right? It didn't take choice band Earthquake. Those are two things that deal with Gardevoir. At least, I don't know if the exact calc is 100%, but at least after Rocks, I know they both die. Well, I know they died both after Rocks, right? And then, of course, you have Outrage, and then you need Earthquake, right? Because Earthquake lets you hit Weezing, which is a big thing because you can't hit it with Outrage. And Wall's first impression as well. You need Outrage because Outrage is just strong as hell. And then, first impression is just so good for opposing weather, for Venusaur, checking that, for just picking off Scarfers and stuff like that. It's very strong. And then I personally love to run Dragon Claw because you don't always want to spam Outrage when your opponent has a Fairy type or something to revenge kill you. But Dragon Claw is still incredibly strong coming off on Haxorus. Of course, now with Sylveon being here, I think Choice Band has to decide if it wants to run Poison Jab or not. Though offensive variants, Sylveon will be 2-hit KO'd by Earthquake anyway, and some defensive variants will also be 2-hit KO with Rocks. I think that Haxorus is something that can get a little bit out of hand, just because one of the ways that it was dealt with was definitely after taking chip damage or prior damage. Mamoswine could knock it out Ice Shard, and there are some DD variants of Haxorus that run Protect for first impression from Galizapod, and of course, Cobalion can check it too if it takes a little bit of damage because of its Shuka Berry. So I do think that Haxorus definitely lost one of its best checks in Mamoswine's Ice Shard, because you couldn't even, you can Protect from the first Ice Shard. I just hit you with the second Ice Shard. All you did was waste, one of my 48 PP, who cares? So I think that's something. I think Toxicity gets a ton better too. Main reason I think Toxicity gets better is because of what, like I said, gets good. First off, Hog said it in his post right here, there's not too many between the 284 and 240 ranges. There's Toxicity, which are the main relevant threats, and Chandelure. Toxicity is slower than Chandelure, correct? But besides that, it jumps all the way down. So, Specs Toxicity gets a ton better. Because it doesn't have to worry about Mamoswine revenging it. And also Toxicity is, as we know, poison and electric. So it has some good natural resistances, like Steel and Fighting, so Cobalion. And it doesn't get free switching, don't get me wrong, because, a Spec Sylveon is going to do so much to it with Hyper Voice upon switch, an easy 2-hit KO. Very, very, very easy 2-hit KO upon switch. Gardevoir should have been mentioned on that as well, that list of relevant threats. My bad. It also is faster than Toxicity, but I think Toxicity gets a lot faster because it gets free switchings with things like Galarian Weezing, Cobalion, kind of, depending, and it just can get more hits, and it's a little bit harder, so it's a revenge kill. So I do think Haxorus gets better. I think Toxicity gets better. Obviously, Gigalith, as Hog mentioned too, gets better as a reliable Sun answer, but even then, still doesn't like coming in on U-turns from Darmanitan. And it's hard for it to set Rocks too on Sun, in my opinion. And that's my personal opinion, because like I mentioned earlier on Sun archetypes, I think that Rhyperior should be there. You don't want to set Rocks on Rhyperior. Torkoal you don't want to switch it on Torkoal necessarily all the time, rather. And get Lava Plume burnt, because if you are, you're out. That's it. Unless you have Rest or Heal Bell on your team. If your Gigalith is burnt, that's it. That's it. It's not a Sun answer anymore. Coming in 5 minutes. I'm about to play some Black Ops with Moe and Blender. It's been a long time, and I'm excited to play zombies. But yeah, so like that's just the thing. So like I couldn't bring myself to vote ban on Mamoswine. I do think that Yu is gonna have a huge change. I do think that Darmanitan is gonna be suspect tested or banned. I don't know if it'd be actually a quick ban because now Yu has moved into its actual, like they're out of beta, right? So Yu is its own tier right now. So I don't know if Darmanitan will actually be quick ban in itself. I feel like that's kind of unfair, especially after we just had a Mamoswine suspect test. And at least I think let the community decide this. But if the community reaches out enough, you know, the council at the end they can do whatever the hell they want, right? Like we can express our, you know, how much it upsets us, but they could do what they want. But I do think that Darmanitan would be looked at next. I think even things like Sylveon and Haxorus will also be looked at in the future too. Personally, those are just some opinions I do have. But yeah, I do want to know your guys' thoughts. Please let me know down below. And yeah, Mamoswine was banned. So we got a new BL night. Probably going to do something with Mamoswine tomorrow. If y'all want to leave some Mamoswine teams referred to on my Smogon wall, check out my website down below. If you also want to use any of the teams that I've been using for the past few months, they are on pokeaimMD.com. And you can pick them up there just by clicking on, you know, any of the pictures of them. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.